I was in Washington, D.C. I had the privilege of being invited by the Election Integrity Network that was having a meeting of swing state leaders. And it was a really interesting meeting because when we first arrived, of course, we met, but we met the next morning with White House leaders. And we were able to present specific specific recommendations that we had already submitted, for example, that were many of which from Michigan Fair Elections were incorporated into President Trump's Executive Order 14248. As a matter of fact, I did an analysis, and Grok said there was a significant overlap between our recommendations and what was incorporated into the executive order. And the thing to keep in mind about that executive order is, as we had recommended, it was to follow the law. There are existing laws that recommend these changes. President Trump didn't pull this executive order out of thin air. He pulled it from existing federal law, which is not what happened under the Biden executive order, which created election law. So there's a big difference. And that being said, we then went to a retreat, 3 days of retreat planning and working with our partners. And then we had the distinct privilege of Speaker Mike Johnson, the U.S. House, invited Cleta to come because she'd played such a significant role in designing and shepherding the SAVE Act to fruition. And she said, well, can I bring my team? So I think about 29 of us sat up in the speaker's gallery and watched the whole proceedings as it was debated and eventually passed. And while it was being debated, Chip Roy, who had introduced, he was the primary initial sponsor of the bill, thanked Cleta Mitchell personally for her assistance in creating this. So I think that what I came away with is a sense that people are listening and we are having an effect. And this organization and the people who are in it, making it great, are really beginning to affect policy on a significant level. And who would have dreamed that when we started a few years ago and we were just tearing our hair out about what's going on in Michigan? But the truth of the matter is Michigan is the tip of the spear. When things happen here, if they're not nipped in the bud, they spread to other areas. So we're a testing ground for the election integrity destroyers. So what we're doing here is really, really important, and I'm just thrilled to say that we were being heard. And I see Jeff popped up, us sitting in the speaker's gallery with the House down below voting. So that's my update. And the SAVE Act now will go to the Senate. So we need to start expressing our support to senators to please get behind the SAVE Act. The other thing that's worthy of note is that our petition to the U.S. Supreme Court to grant standing to the 11 legislators whose rights were usurped, that has I am just thrilled to say 4 significant groups filed that they plan to supply what are called amici curiae, or an amicus curiae, in support of our petition for encouraging the Supreme Court to take our case. So having 4 major firms get behind our case is really important. And since they're not filed yet, I suppose I should hold off on saying who they are. But suffice it to say, they are big names, and I'm just thrilled to have been able to reach out to people and work as a team to get these folks to support us on this. So we have a fabulous program coming up. I don't want to take all the time talking, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on the amazing things that our group is accomplishing. And we just started, with 6 people around a table, and then with the help of the Election Integrity Network, we're in more than half the counties, and Jacky will be telling us today about our chapters, how those are going and rolling out. So with that, I'd like to introduce a new person joining us today. If you haven't followed, it's called Michigan Enjoyer, ENJOYER. It's a publication that I hadn't heard of. So I was really interested to see what they're writing. Very well written, very well documented. And James Dickson is here today to talk about an article that they published based on, they FOIA'd Jocelyn Benson's texts regarding the Chinese voter scandal. And from there, quite a bit has been uncovered. And a new article came out 2 days ago as well. So with that being said, James, would you like to fill us in on what you're doing and what you've been finding?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. But yeah, so we had a two-part series, and actually we've done a few now, just about how Jocelyn Benson has handled the illegal voter scandal. And if you remember last year, when she spoke to Congress, Benson talked about non-citizen voters as if it were a myth, as if it were the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster. She specifically called it the myth of non-citizen voting. And then the very next month, we found that this Chinaman, Ho Gao, he goes by Neil Gao, had voted illegally in the election last year. And then for months, it was, we only have a single known non citizen voter. Then, after the supposed review, which Benson takes to the Detroit News rather than telling everyone at the same time, she says, now we know the real number and it's 16. If I could just impress on you one takeaway from the whole thing, from both stories, it's that Jocelyn Benson doesn't know what the number is because she didn't really check. Uh, what you might think from reading the Detroit News story is that 5.7 million voting records were reviewed, and she proved that definitely, um, only 16 non citizens voted. That's not what happened. What she did is she reviewed the 2024 voting records against a database of non citizen driver's license holders. Very much a limited group that does not account at all for the many illegal aliens in our state. So even when the Detroit News presented the story, if you were to search Benson 15 Detroit News, you'd get a hit. But we had 16 illegal voters. So they even misrepresented the story from their headline, all to stick in line with the Jocelyn Benson talking points. So what we have is our media and our politicians who run the state doing a poor job.
Is that it, James?
Absolutely, yeah. Go on. If you guys want to talk about it, let's do it.
All right. Are there any, let me see if I see any hands up. I'm not seeing any hands up. Uh, can you tell us about, oh, yes, I am. I just skipped by a hand. Oops. Go ahead.
Did you just call on me?
I tried to, I saw the hand and I didn't see the name. There you are, Christine. Go ahead.
James, I just think Mr. Dickson, your articles have just been incredible. I mean, all of us who we had a member of our team who follows you and who passed the first of your two-part series on to the communications team, and we all just like lost our minds. We thought it was so great. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, could you say how the name of your site came about?
When we were talking about it, I wanted it to be the skeptic because I'm the skeptic. I view that as my job, is to shoot down the storylines that so many of us believe, like Gretchen Whitmer was saving lives during the pandemic, the media prints the truth, these kind of things. I'm skeptical about commonly made claims. Other people who are much smarter thought that the enjoyer was a better, because within the enjoyment. So most of our stuff is about, you know, the good stuff of Michigan, the hunting, the fishing, the living off the fat of the land. Me and Charlie LaDuff are some of the only people who, all right, here's the negative stuff that's going on. Here's the politics. Here's the threats to Michigan. So, like this piece, the Irish Hills aren't dead. The tourists just moved off. They call it US 12 out there. We all know it as Michigan Ave in the civilized part of Michigan. And so these little things, right? I've been to the Irish Hills area, and so we like to explore and enjoy and celebrate Michigan. But the stuff I write typically is about the threats to Michigan.
And Mr. Dickson, am I remembering correctly that that you are a former reporter for the Detroit News? Am I right?
You are? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there for a decade.
Yeah. So did you know, so the guy that you sort of outed, and who, was working directly with the Secretary of State, is that somebody you know personally?
Professionally, I mean, he worked in Lansing. I worked in Detroit. We know each other,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I also don't care who it is.
Yeah.
You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I know who it is, but I don't care about him, because my only interest is in true stories. So I could sit next to the guy at the bar. I'm not going to badger him at the bar. I only care about the bylined work.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be less personal, but news is written by people,
Yeah.
and those people have relationships with their sources. And what
Yeah.
we saw here was not a scoop like the average person might think. It was a collaboration of government and news to minimize the damage of what was true.
Yeah.
Imagine this for a second. You have a story about you have a woman running for governor, and but with what she's doing in her current job, she's failing. The only innovation she's had is bringing Chinese voters into the voting booth in Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
We
have
hope
all
to
these
do.
facts, you have all this information, and you don't use it. So it's just per se corruption. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's quite all right. I was just gonna, again, thank you very much for your reporting. Really, just, outstanding, we're going to be following up with our own story from a slightly different angle with our data analysts.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, yeah. So thank you very much.
And I can't imagine you'll find a number as low as Benson did. I mean, it's just 16. 16, the door was open for 10,000. And especially with the way the story was reported, there's a section in there where Benson is trying to get her team to say, if you do this, you will be caught. And her aide has to be like, oh, we don't want to say that, because if you say that, you're going to invite questions about how the guy was caught, when in fact he wasn't caught. He wasn't caught. What happened is he turned himself in. So how could you say that guy would be caught when this guy wasn't caught? And if, and the idea that, oh, well, we found these others, so our process works. No, we're not trying to read stories months later about how many illegals canceled out the votes from people in Michigan who are valid voters. We'd like to go on with the assumption, just like Benson did before this, that the number is 0.
In the PR business, I used to be a vice president of public relations for a public company, and
Hmm.
it's called a hangout. When information is coming, Jocelyn Benson had testified, was it the month prior, November? I can't remember, that there was no evidence of any
Yeah,
non-citizen voting. So
yeah.
because she was on record as saying that, she needed to do what's called a hangout so that she's no longer in complete denial. She can say, oh, well, yes, I said there were some, but I didn't quantify the whole number. So she's she's trying to avoid being basically shown as completely telling an untruth. So
Absolutely.
it's called a hangout. So thought you'd like to know.
And the biggest
Never used it
untruth
myself.
is that any number that Benson offered is accurate, whether it's 0, whether it's 1, or whether it's 16. The biggest lie she's telling is that she knows the number. She
That's
doesn't.
right. She doesn't. That's right. So also, D. Davey has a question for you. Go ahead, D.
First of all, James, we are delighted to meet your acquaintance. You are just a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Dee. I really appreciate that.
I have an ask from a FOIA perspective. We push out FOIAs for different projects through this organization. And if you could send us your FOIA that you sent for text messaging, we can add that to our sample templates for for future FOIAs that we send. If you need to redact it, that's fine, but just the bare bones of the FOIA would help
I have to
us.
get it from my partner Anna Hoffman. She does all that, but absolutely, I think the more the merrier.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Greg Atkins said he personally assisted at least a dozen non-citizens voting during early voting in Northeast Detroit. So Greg, in Michigan Fair Elections on our website, if you go to our library, there's an affidavit available. If you could take that affidavit and modify it so it fits your specific needs and complete that, that would be very helpful, and get it notarized. So if anybody witnesses something like that, you need to fill out an affidavit and have it notarized. And
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever been a time to get this stuff on the record, it's probably now.
now's a good time. Now's a real good time. So Melanie has a question. What happens next with Jocelyn Benson?
Well, she's running for governor, and my guess is that's not going to go well. So, I mean, look, this is the job this person has held longest on this planet, and she's at her worst right at the end. She's been the governor, or the Secretary of State, for all these years now, and it's all these years in that things are unraveling. That does not indicate that she's worthy of a promotion. So what I think is that we have a chance to avoid Whitmer 2.0 by saying, if we assess the content of her character and how good she is at her current job, there's no way the people of Michigan give her a promotion. But if you let her just exist in this world of CNN hits and MSNBC and all that, where she gets to tilt the stories in her favor, then she could have success. So the question is, which Jocelyn Benson will the people of Michigan be meeting? The one we tell her about, or the one they tell her about?
James, you might be interested to know too that I researched this and I think I wrote a story on it, but I can't, it's been a while. Anyway, there's this SOS project by George Soros. It's Secretary of State project. They launched this.
I heard about that, yeah.
It was 2002 or something. They tried it out in a few states and they got like 5 of their 6 candidates elected. So then they said this really works because SOSs are the folks that determine how elections are administered. So then they rolled it out to other states. And Michigan Secretary of State Benson was one of his trainees in the SOS
So
project.
is this back in the 2010 race we're talking?
Well, she won in 2019. I'll have to remember or look up the article I wrote.
She also ran against Ruth Johnson in that 2010 race, lost.
Yeah. Lost, yeah.
Waited it out and then came back 8 years later and took it.
Yeah,
And it
so
just and I'm trying to get people to understand this is the importance. So as we talk about election integrity, the best way around it is to win.
right.
And I tell people you have to win it to fix it. It's a paradox. You have to win it to fix it. So the same thing that just worked last year, if nothing had worked and everything was perpetual 2022, where no matter how mad you are, no one joins you there and you lose, I get it. But there's no reason to be demoralized. There's every reason to think that this is going to go well if.
Well, and also I think there's a lot to be said for example, everybody on this call, because everybody on this call in one way or another has been involved at a local level of helping ensure integrity in our elections. And it's a civic duty of every citizen to do that. As Benjamin Franklin, he delivered a republic if we could keep it. And it's easy to have tyranny. All we have to do is fall asleep at the switch. So
I mean, when you look around the world, tyranny seems to be the normal human condition.
Well, it
And
could
so
be
America
normal.
is the one place that demands you be better than just a human, because everywhere else you'd say, if I'm the most powerful guy and people are threatening my power, I'll just shut them up. We can't. We actually have to beat them at the ballot box. Not a perfect system, but I'll take it over anything else out there.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we all need to be involved in helping encourage candidates that we can trust, once they're in office to do the right thing and to really uphold the principles of this republic. So thank you so much for joining. We'll have to have you back on and keep those stories coming. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, with that, and stay with us if you'd like. We'd love to have you stay on. Tim Vetter has some wonderful information to report from Michigan's Deep Data Committee. Go ahead, Tim. We see your slide, but we're not hearing you, Tim. Uh-oh. Oh, I just heard noise. Was it Tim? No. Uh-oh, Tim. What's going on? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's come back to Tim. Jeff, would you give us an update on Trump's election integrity executive order 14248 and how
I can do that. Hold on 1 second. All right, let me get rocking and rolling. Okay, so as been reported in the prior meeting, we wrote back in the day a recommendation for changes in election laws. And when you look at the executive order that was generated, 14248, there were very, very many similarities. I want to talk about one thing first before we get into it. This is the thing that's near and dear to my heart. I was in internal controls in my corporate life for basically 35 years, off and on in various parts. And when you look at a classic fraud triangle, you have to look at it the way to make a fire. So you need fuel, you need oxygen, and then you need an ignition source. So when you look at an election, what do you need? For fuel, you need excess registrations. And as you can see, back in election day, we had excess registrations, 106% of our voting age population. So we have fuel there. Now you have a pressure, oxygen, something to say, hey, I need to win. And that is the pressure to win. You need 50% plus one. Then finally, an ignition source is the ability to generate ballots. And in most cases, it's mail-in ballots. But, and this is what's so important, when voter rolls are accurate, the fuel for fraud is removed. So what happens? There's always this pressure. There's always this ability to generate ballots. But if you don't have fuel or excess registrations to generate ballots too, it's very hard to do election fraud. And that's why Michigan Fair Election and other election integrity groups work so hard to maintain clean voter rolls. And this is why you see progressives fight tooth and nail to keep those voter rolls as Tim will say later on, corrupt, unauditable as possible. So what drives all this? Well, back in 1993, there was the Motor Voter Act. It got codified into law, Section 52, 20507. And I'm going to talk about three little things about here. It goes on and on and on and on. I can put this into the chat later on if you want to read the whole law itself. But basically, what it says is that the state conducts a general program that makes reasonable effort to remove the names of ineligible voters from the official list of eligible voters by reason of, they basically got specific, death of the person. If he's dead, can't vote unless they're in certain urban areas, or the change of residence. But there's other reasons too. So if you see, they're saying, hey, get these people on, keep them on, and only remove them if they died or if they've moved. So in going down in Section B, any state program or activity to protect the integrity of the electoral process by ensuring the maintenance of an accurate and current voter registration roll, that is a responsibility of the state. And going on further down, removals. Okay, so the state is required to keep it clean by removing false or invalid registrations. Now, notice I use the word registration. I don't use the word voter. Why is that? A voter is a live human being, and if that person is a citizen, they have every right to vote. And we in Michigan Fair Elections and PIME believe in that right. There's a reason why Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement fought so hard, and we totally concur. But a registration is a data line. A data line is not connected to a valid voter and can be removed. So you'll hear me say registrations a lot, and that is the reason why. So, and again, the state is required to complete no later than 90 days prior to the date of a primary election for any federal office, to systematically remove the names of eligible voters or official list of voters. Now, over time, this has been bent, morphed, twisted, any way you want to put it, for people to say, I can't do anything. But there's an important word: systematically. That means you can't do like mass file changes or updates, but you can do individuals. So this is the Motor Voter Act in a nutshell. So when we generated our Title 52 recommendations, again, U.S. election laws under Section 52 or Title 52, we came up with a whole series of recommendations. I'm not going to read these are too hard to read, but then we compare it to the Executive Order 14248. You notice they reference the Motor Voter Act. What do they think? They say is along with federal immigration databases and state records. And when you look, we said, hey, you got to verify citizenship. We also say, hey, you got to maintain ability for the jurisdictions or the state, and the state's given the responsibility to verify citizenship. And as James Dickson just proved in his segment, the state of Michigan under Jocelyn Benson, Bureau of Elections, failed. And we're going to dig in to find out why. And basically they have to have, we're recommending that they have access to records. Too often they use the excuse that the records you can't get to them or they're bad. Well, Doge is kind of proven that. And we're saying, hey, when a person files for a permanent change of record, they move from one location to the other. Within the state, generally pretty good. All right. They do put the new person on. They're very slow of taking the old person off. But when a person moves out of state, that's when everything gets really bad. And what we recommend is that the states work with each other. So this state says, this person's moved here permanently. They got a driver's license in this state. You should remove it. You remove this person from your voter rolls. So this is what our recommendations were. They've kind of distilled them down to this short statement. And we believe that with this being executed, that again, registrations will be clean and the chance for fraud is greatly diminished. With that, anybody have any questions?
Thanks. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. Great job.
Well, I'm Jeff.
And periodically, we'll be asking Jeff to give the folks an update on Executive Order 14248 and how it's being implemented based on our suggestions. And we have Karen, does have her hand up. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I was just wondering, as far as the driver's license thing, is that at all related to Ramon Jackson and the testimony that he gave a couple weeks ago? I mean, isn't that exactly what he had found was going on?
It's
actively in Michigan?
It's not unrelated. Yeah, his point was that there is shenanigans going on with underprivileged people that move a lot, and that when they move out of state, they are ripe for basically being registered then in Michigan. We're looking at, but it ties in. He had a specific group that he was looking at as being targeted for abuse, whereas we're looking at a broader in terms of just all the voter rolls with people when they aren't eligible, whether they move out of state, whether they die, or, a lot of different reasons.
Right, because I mean that's one of the things too. Like as far as in a place like where we're at in Washtenaw Township, we have all these supposed people that are on and off our rolls because they're students.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's a similar situation, correct? And I guess my question is this going to stop that? Like, is this like a block that they won't be able to do it anymore, or however they're manipulating the system? Will it still be, like, because isn't that what Ramon's whole thing is that they're manipulating the system at this point?
Yeah, what we're trying to do is to have ineligible registrants identified and then removed. And there has been a lot of resistance, whether they're a non-citizen, whether they're a non-resident, whether they're alive or dead. It's providing a whole slush fund for people, for abusers.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We did file successfully earlier in East Lansing and in Ypsilanti a law or a city ordinance requiring landlords to register to vote tenants. And also, and didn't really, I can highlight this too, we also recognize that situation in that, college students on their family's health insurance plan may only vote in their home district, not at their school district. We also have a FOIA ongoing about these 16 on how these 15 non-citizens were able to vote. Was it, and in what jurisdictions? Was it same-day registration? Was it in a university town? We don't know. On Monday, I went to the Oakland County machine accuracy test, and I spoke with the clerk, Lisa Brown, here in Oakland, and I asked her, did she know of these 16 and were any in Oakland County? And her answer was, no, the state knows that, but we have not been told of it. So,
okay,
a very good question, Karen. Thank you.
Very, very good question. That's exactly right. Thank you. And with that, now Tim Vetter is available again. So let's get Tim up here to tell us some of his findings from data analysis.
Thank you, Patrice. Sound check. Can you hear me this time?
Yes, here you are. Thank you.
Woo! All right, good deal. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present at today's News at Noon event. The content we're about to share is a collaborative effort from the DEEP team, which stands for Data Evaluation of Election Processes, and is a subgroup with MFEI. The DEEP team strives for a world-class election system focused on data monitoring for transparency, auditability, accessibility, quality control of our election data. So I'm going to read our mission statement because we're relatively new. The DEEP team evaluates complex election and voter data for accuracy and consistency with world-class systems, and then recommends direction based on state election laws that ensure and sustain the belief that every vote is counted and contributes to the governing of our society. We absolutely love this mission statement. That was a collaborative effort from the DEEP team. So in a world-class, stable, and auditable election process, ballots equal voters. So consider this example. If a ballot counter machine says 1,000 ballots were cast, but the voter roll system identifies 950 voters, also called people, which quantity is accurate? The answer is you don't know because the numbers don't match. However, our Michigan QVF system is not a stable process to publish all the county certified voters and is not designed to maintain a consistent voter list. For any past election, we've discovered this through all the FOIAs we've done with the clerk. For this reason, elections cannot be audited after a county certification. So what is a world-class election system? Vote history records should never change in a world-class election system. This text that you see right over here, we have hyperlinks in the text. And by the way, or in this presentation, I put a link in the chat to this presentation. Anyone can see it, anyone can download it. So this text is a link pointing you to more details on a common term called single source of truth. That's a world-class term. Industry standards commonly refer to a single source of truth with data and documentation. So imagine your bank account where you log in and you discover that the deposit you made last month is now in a different account or is missing altogether. Do you have confidence in your banking institution after that discovery? Absolutely not. However, Michigan's vote history records are changing all the time. So here are the current co-chairs with areas of responsibility and our corresponding MFEI interfaces. You can check out the presentation if you want to read up on this. And the D team has 3 main types of volunteers. We're always willing to train anyone who's interested in helping us out. And I'm not going to read this, but this is a link to, or you can click on the link if you want to see the bio, my personal bio, in my technical background. I'm just one sample of the many talented contributors to this report from the DEEP team. So when it comes to enforcing Michigan state laws to support a world-class election system, look no further than enforcing our existing state laws. We heard about that earlier, right? Patrice was mentioning that. Even one vote history record that's changed must be investigated as soon as possible to confirm if a bigger issue or if any issues bigger than that one incident are evident. That would be a world-class election system. Everything is questioned. We have never received an accurate list of voters for any past election. So why do we not require that the list of voters stored in the QVF to be part of the county certification process? A world-class election system would require exactly that, conforming to state law MCL 168509Q. You see it right there. State law requires maintaining vote history records for 5 years, and federal law requires 22 months. Why does Michigan add, remove, and alter many vote history records in the monthly statewide data releases? Curious minds want to know, apparently. So let's talk about chain of custody with our statewide election data from the BOE or from any Michigan clerk. A file hash code could serve as a digital fingerprint for the data. File hash codes are important for chain of custody, but it's not shown in this slide. You don't see it because the BOE doesn't do it. How do you show something you don't have? So in this list, you see a bunch of QVF dates. You see them in the left column. And then you see a big green swap that you see right here in the middle. So highlighted in green, these are all the timestamps where the data is auto-exported from our QVF system in the middle of the night. See all these AM timestamps? That tells you the data hasn't, that's our best indication that data has not been modified. Because these timestamps are not during work hours, it's safe to assume that these are the source data files. However, look at this. More recently, you'll see that, again, the green highlights are in the middle of the night, but the yellow highlights that you see here indicate that the data has been modified, and you don't have chain of custody to the source data. So why are potential changes to the vote history records happening now on a monthly basis, and what is getting altered from the source data? Again, curious minds would like to know that. And if you look down here, why is the data now being split into 2 files? We're going to talk about that real quick. So in a world-class election system, you would purge the old election records rather than dividing this data into 2 sections, adding more chaos and potential human error. So in January 2019, you'll see up here, there were 46 elections listed in the statewide QVF data. In a world-class election system, you would purge those elections and election records beyond the required retention date. If you just simply retained 40 elections, you would be going back 10 years. By law, we only are required 5 years, state law. or 22 months for federal law. But at this time, the BOE's data now is holding on to 71 different election dates. 71. This is going back more than 20 years. As a matter of fact, the two oldest elections are dated 2004 and 2008, and both of these elections have one vote. One. However, the BOE did remove two elections recently. In December 2024, two special elections for Representative Districts 13 and 25 were purged from the BOE supplied data, not the source data, the BOE supplied data that we got. This made national news in the Gateway Pundit, and up here at the very top is a link to that article. To this day, the election records remain in the source data, but continue to be purged from the BOE's statewide data. Why? This data is consistently purged each month since November 2024. We call this a pattern, not an isolated mistake. So here's what a single vote record would look like for a voter in the BOE's data for two different time periods. Again, the same records from the local clerk does not show their vote history records are missing. Why? You can see right here, these records, vote history records, are now gone. So to wrap it up, stay tuned for a future presentation from our DEEP organization on these shocking details, how our vote history records are added, erased, and altered after county certification. Hopefully we'll be on the schedule 2 weeks out so that we can go into further detail about this type of data manipulation. So I'd like to thank you. Are there any questions? Patrice, you're muted.
Say, go ahead, Christine.
Yeah, Tim, could you just go back to, you were saying they've kept these records of like past elections back, for years. Now, could you explain again why that's a bad thing?
It's a really bad thing because the more data that you have and you have to manage, the more chaos you have in the vote history records. As you can see, they're maintaining 71 elections. Think of it this way also. You know how we talk about the bloated voter rolls? You got more registrations than people. Think about that in the vote history records. You got so many vote history records now that they have to split it in half in order to get it to be maintained. So that now it becomes more difficult to maintain vote history records and keep them from changing. We got so much change. We're going to report on that in 2 weeks.
Why do you think they might be doing that?
We all know that with bloated vote.
I think
I'm talking about the history records specifically. Yeah. Why would they be doing that?
We don't want Tim to be forced to speculate, but he could possibly say, what the exposure is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I won't speculate, but what I believe I can say is that the more chaos you have, the harder it is to analyze the data. And so think about your bank account, vote, or your financial transactions and your history never changes. The standard in all industries is history does not change, but yet in our election system, it does change. We hope for a better system. World-class system.
Thank you, Tim. This is fabulous. I really appreciate your doing this work and making it so clear to us, because it all begins with the data. It all begins with voter rolls. And it's easy for people to feel overwhelmed by that. And the work that you've done with Tim has taken a background in the automotive industry and applied it to the voter rolls. And so he's not just pulling this out of thin air. He comes to us with a great deal of experience in manufacturing, where precision is very important. And elections need to be precise because they're important too. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, Jacky, give us an update. There's so much you're up to with the chapters and other matters, but let's have you fill us in on chapters today.
Yep. So some good news is that we're bringing on Ottawa County and Van Buren County as of this week. So that's very exciting to expand the chapter program. We're just under 20, which is wonderful. And again, if you are interested in joining one of our MFEI or PIME chapters throughout the state, you are more than welcome to send me an email and I will get you plugged in. I'll put my email in the chat so that everybody can contact me. We are working on a couple of things with those chapters. The focus is heavily on ranked choice voting right now. We have town halls going on that the Rank My Vote people are putting on in many counties throughout the state. So what I've been doing is I've been notifying the county chapters of upcoming ranked choice voting town halls in their counties so that they can bring volunteers and ask tough questions. We can provide you with questions if you want to attend. We do recommend getting it on film and taking some notes so that you can report back to us, and we have viral clips we can share on social media. The other thing I want to talk about is with social media, we do now have a social media coordinator. Tracy Owens was not able to make it to this meeting today, but I did want to shout out the work she's doing and also let everybody know that we are looking for people to be social media content juicers. So that means you're part of a core team of people that when Stacy puts a post out, she'll notify you and say, hey, everybody, I need you to go like the post, comment under the post, and share it. So that way we can get as much organic reach as possible, utilizing the followers we already have and the supporters we already have. So what I would say is if you're interested in doing that, you can email me as well, and I'll make sure to put you in a either group email list or group chat list so that Tracy can let you know once those posts go live so you can jump on and help spread the word about it. We are also looking for volunteers to help potentially do counter RCV canvassing at rest areas on Memorial Day. So this is something where the RCV people have already announced over and over again at their meetings and in their emails that they will be starting to circulate petitions on Memorial Day, specifically at rest areas throughout the state. And so we're hoping to be able to be a counterbalance to that. So I have focused on a couple of key counties that go along I-75 and I-94, and I've located those rest areas. I'm going to be contacting people who are on our volunteers list who live in those counties to see if you'd be willing to go to those rest areas and hand out literature to counteract the ballot petition circulating that's going to be going on from the opposition. So those are kind of the main things I wanted to cover. And of course, if you are interested, please email me. I will need all the volunteers I can get to help do the canvassing on Memorial Day. And we definitely want as many people to help Tracy out as possible. So if you have social media, whether it's Facebook, X, or Instagram, those are the main that we're focusing on that we need juicers for. Please reach out to me and we'll put you into a little group with Tracy to help out there.
Thank you very much, Jacky. Very exciting what's going on with social media, with the chapters, with the whole growth of the organization and the energy behind it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now we have Davey here with us. You know, she's from Washtenaw County, and she's reporting on something that's happening in Washtenaw County at the federal level. So Dee, take it away here.
Thank you so much, Patrice. This week, an article appeared in MLive, and it alerted us that there is a federal subpoena and request for notice of inspection of I-9 forms. So an I-9 form is an employee verification record. So Washtenaw County has been asked for by the Department of Homeland Security for information about their ID program. Their ID program is a program that was set up in 2015, which enables counties to issue IDs to enable immigrants, homeless, and other non-citizens access to statewide benefits. The county claims they're protecting the cardholders' data, but this article identified that that data is not implicitly secure. So it's putting citizens at risk, or not non-citizens' data at risk. And the county officials are stalling in reviewing a response to the Department of Homeland Security because they're seeking legal counsel. There was a meeting last night or late yesterday, 4/16, and it was a closed door meeting within the commissioners. I have no information or no follow-up information on that, but it sounds as though this is a scheme that's been going on since 2015 for whereby counties are issuing IDs to non-citizens to enable them to assess and get other benefits at our taxpayer dollars. No, just raising that. And there are a number of Washtenaw commissioners who are adamantly supporting this ID program. So that's all the information that we have. I did reach out to the author of the article, and I asked at Patrice's request for the author to join us on this call. And her comment was that she was, I'm unable to participate. So the entire article was a little left-leaning, well, very much left-leaning. So we will see where this goes, but it just gives us all encouragement that things happening in Michigan and at a very local county level are being explored and investigated at a federal level. So all of the work that we have been doing in the background for many, many years is starting to show fruition. Patrice, that's my update.
Well, that's fantastic, Dee. Thank you for updating us. And I see Christine said that she's written to the DHS asking for copies of the subpoena. And I think it's also very important to know what Greg put in the chat, that when you file, if you are about to be deported as a non-citizen, you can get a social security number and a green card, which then allows you to stay in the country awaiting a hearing, which can take up to 6 years, by the way. And during that time, they can apply for benefits, they can get Medicaid, and most importantly, they can register to vote, which is against the law. But if they all it takes is, you remember, is the last 4 digits is your social security number to register to vote. So this is what appears to be happening. I think the code has been broken on it. Now the enforcement to stop it is what's in process. So what's happening in Washtenaw is, I think, very strategic, and it appears to be very encouraging. So thank you for staying on this and following up. And I think it's also very important to note that this didn't appear in a right-leaning or publication. This was mainstream. MLive is mainstream. Actually, I think it's publicly funded, isn't it? Isn't it through PBS? I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe there's some public funding involved with MLive. So anyway, that's all really important. Now, I am pleased to, at this point, announce our All-Star Award winner of the week. And this is a person who's been with us a long time. He's been doing data analysis, leading the data analysis team. He's now co-chairing the DEEP team. We'll see if we can see his face light up when he figures out who it is we're talking about. So yes, it's Tim Vetter. Tim, thank you. Tim volunteers his time. He works a full-time job and he does this for no compensation. He and his team work just to make this a better country. And it has not been easy. I know I've given him grief along with the outside world has given him grief. And we're just very, very grateful to Tim. And so he'll be receiving a letter recognizing him as an MFE All-Star. He'll be getting a challenge coin. And all of you know that a challenge coin is something to designate a person as a special person as part of a select group. And so he's part of the select group of All-Stars. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for all you do. And would you like to say anything?
How about to thank you? I'll keep my words brief because don't want to be emotional. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tim. It means a lot what you're doing. Dee, is your hand up by accident or are you weighing in? She lowered her hand. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Next week is, this weekend actually is Easter. So we're wishing everyone a happy Easter. Next Tuesday, you should be aware that John Droge, who is a compatriot in another state, will be beaming in to testify before the House's Election Integrity Committee this Tuesday at 9 a.m. And he's very much focused on data and audits, how you audit our elections. So if anybody can attend that meeting, that would be great. It's 9:00 a.m. in Lansing at the Binsfield building. And he will be referencing Michigan Fair Elections as the people to go to if you have questions about audits. That's going to be another upcoming meeting that's important for everybody. So, and I think we already talked about the meeting coming up this Friday with the Board of State Canvassers also in the Binsfield building. So if you can make that, that would be good. Unless there's something new if anybody's got a hand up, something they'd like to add, now is a good time to pipe in.
Real quick, Patrice, would you like me
Yes.
to show the link to the WebEx training meeting?
Oh, yes. Oh, please tell us about that too. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me pull this up real quick.
So while Isaac's calling that up, we were bemoaning that all of us have had encounters with WebEx where it has thwarted our efforts to either load something or show something or be heard. And so we nominated Isaac to give us a training on WebEx so that we can navigate its hurdles. And so Isaac has set together a training session, and this will be open to anybody on the call here. Anybody who's part of our group is welcome to come. Isaac, you want to tell us about it?
Sure. So I'll be going over mostly some of the nuances of WebEx. There's a couple things that are a little bit not intuitive, mainly sharing your screen. I'll go over actually how to set up meetings at a certain point for those of us within the organization that need to set up meetings sometimes. Mainly, this is going to be a big list of all the little things that WebEx does without really telling you that it does. Found quite a few of those in our time using WebEx. So I'm just going to go through my experience and give the solutions for each one.
Okay, so that's 3 p.m. Now, where will people get the link? Will it be on our website? How will they get it?
Well, so for starters, we've got the link here. I know that you can't copy and paste from the screen, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it in the chat. Anybody who would like access to the link, the fastest and most surefire way to get it is to email me, and I will put my email address in the chat as well.
And why don't you give it to Debbie, and Debbie can put it out in the emails that we send out from Wix as well. And we'll put it out on social media on the PIME, Telegram, and Signal channels as well, and X.
All right. I'll do that as well.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for coming, everybody.